He's like a one of the monsters from Mutant League Football. He's got buzzsaws in his mouth.
Nice.
I might be thinking of Sawmouth.
Yeah,
a different creature. Folks, welcome to Werewolf Radar, the world's premier paranormal preparedness podcast. My name's Jordan Dahl.
I am Nate Balding.
And I am Roger Norquist.
Today's episode of Werewolf Radar is brought to you by the new Monstro car. That's right, the first hybrid car that runs on electricity and redacted. Remember to feed your Monstro car one sad memory from your childhood every month, whispered into the tailpipe, and ignore any moaning or pleading you may hear coming from the engine. The Monstro car by Monstroco. What the fuck? So you can get like the hood open and stuff and see what, like I tried to kind of like, because that redacted really made me curious, and I tried to look in there, and there's just a glowing cube that kind of moans, and sometimes you hear like Civil War like songs coming from it.
The odometer also it measures the in nether miles, the way like boats have nautical miles. This car moves down nether miles, and it doesn't seem to ever take you where you want to go. It just sort of heads towards hell. Yeah, it's constant. Regardless,
it's always heading towards hell. It takes you where it wants to go, and sometimes where you need to go.
Yeah, I mean it's still better than a Tesla and their self-driving thing, but
you will burn in a fire.
Oh, the self-driving on the Monstro car is incredible. It will drive you to hell. That's the only place it knows to go. But it does get there, and it gets there fast, and it doesn't kill pedestrians unless they start.
Yeah, it won't back down or anything.
Right. And ignore the clock that doesn't work. It just says random dates in the future when catastrophes will happen.
Just don't be anywhere important on those days.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Be in your Monstro car, saving the environment or something.
So I have some interesting stuff to start the episode with.
Okay.
I have the MUFON November 2022 sighting statistical report.
Oh, hell yeah. Numbers.
Number one country in the world for UFO sightings, United States at 544. The next countries were Canada at 30 and France at 29.
Suck it.
Fuck. We're way ahead.
Fucking crushing them. And sure, it might
be the
most
delusional country.
It might be because we think most things in the sky are UFOs.
UFOs, 126 circle, 76 a sphere.
Oh,
and 60 a triangle.
Yeah. See,
okay.
Triangle's the hot new model.
States,
yeah.
California at 47, Texas at 40, Florida at 36.
California crushing it. Watch the ski.
Keep
right. Watching the skis, California.
The cosmic slopes.
Do you think it's because
triangles?
Do you think it's because they're like always out like enjoying the beach and stuff and like surfing and?
Wow. If I was going to venture a legit guess, I'd say that the proximity to Edwards Air Force Base of the the greater Los Angeles area probably means that they're seeing a lot of like weird experimental shit.
Sure. Or I mean,
JPL's over there.
I remember when they did the SpaceX launch and everybody in LA saw like one of the detachment rockets or something, and they were like, "What the fuck is that?"
Yeah.
So they're watching.
Interestingly, distance from the witness, under 100 feet, 78 sightings.
What?
That's crazy to me.
100 to 500, 77.
That's crazy.
That's out of 684 sightings for November.
That feels like too close for comfort. It feels like they were watching you.
There were 21 landings, hoverings, or takeoffs reported, and 20 entities observed.
Takeoffs. That's crazy legit.
And 20 entities were observed.
Wow.
Number of abduction cases were 39.
Not bad.
How's that for numbers are boring, America?
We bring the stats.
Very cool. I'm a triangular UFO head.
You are? That's your UFO?
I think that's my UFO of choice. I like a Tic Tac. I like a gimbal, but triangular.
That seems like the most legit one to me, but it also seems like the one that would be most likely to be some sort of experimental aircraft, since we were already working on like the stealth bomber around the time that people started seeing the triangles.
I want to be abducted by a circular city UFO, like in Third Contact or whatever. Contact of the Third Kind.
Close Encounters of the Fourth Kind?
I don't know the movie. All I know is that its true title was Jaws
Contact
3.
of the Third Kind.
Was Alien Party Goes Hawaiian.
I mean, that would be cool, I guess. I'd be afraid that it was a Brainiac dome, though.
I would be worried. I would be worried that just... So here's the thing. The idea of being at the end of that, Richard Dreyfuss goes with the aliens. Spoilers, I'm sorry. He chooses to go with them. He's like, I'm Richard Dreyfuss. I'll come with you.
It's my office.
Yeah. I don't think I would do it, only because, I mean, yeah, the knowledge that you would acquire, the personal gnosis of knowing life throughout the universe exists or whatever they could teach you. But there's a part of me that thinks that their like society would be so strange and so alien, if you will, that I would like lose my mind. Like I wouldn't be able to. Do you
keep up with their customs?
Yeah, like you remember.
You don't necessarily know that you're going to like, you know, become a pupil in the Harvard of the alien races or whatever. You might just be getting taken to be a specimen in a zoo.
Yeah,
or even then,
honestly,
like
feels like a best case scenario. If I could be in a place where they're like these are all the things you liked on Earth. Look here, look, this is all the things. It's just what you like. But now aliens are here. But if I have to I feel like it would be like that episode or that issue of Transmetropolitan where the woman wakes up after being frozen for like.
And just
500 years or something.
It's
a complete meltdown from the culture shock. Yeah, exactly, Jason. But I think that would freak me out the first time they're like, we brought several tubes for you to change your blood if you would like. What? You don't change your blood? Okay, our bad.
Oh.
You can keep your stinky old terrible blood.
And you don't have the medical background to know if you need to change your blood in this scenario. They don't know shit about you unless they dissect you first.
What is causing that, though? Are you afraid of making a faux pas against them, or just
maybe?
You would faux pas against the aliens all the time, and that's how the intergalactic wars begin.
You reach out to shake their hand, and it's on.
Did you just make a 8/11 joke? That's our 9/11 here.
and it's one better.
More people died. They were more innocent.
We are freer. We love freedom than thou.
If you got up there and they were just these self-involved narcissistic assholes.
Bunch of flag fascists.
Well, as we talked in the Grave Nugget, check out our Patreon, patreon.com/werewolf radar. Perhaps they don't even have enough soul to make you feel bad about faux pas.
Yeah, sure.
It's also true.
To answer your question,
I mean, if they're anything like the Men in Black, they don't know what the fuck is happening with society.
I'm not so worried about insulting them as I am about my own sanity. I'm like, I would be there. I even like the idea of like teaching them about things. Like you can teach me of the sciences of the universe. Let me teach you about yo-yos. Let me teach you about spam musubi. You ever had that? Oh, it's incredible. And I teach them about souls and stuff. But at some point, I'm going to want to play Darktide with my boys, you know?
Fair.
Just for my me time. And if someone's like, I'll play Darktide with you, one of my existential aspects will, at least, while I'm in the other room working on science.
You're getting Dr. Manhattan.
Yeah, yes, exactly. They start Dr. Manhattaning my ass, and then it's like I'll lose that human connection. And, you know, they don't have a cure for it. I'm in this zoo. It's me and Jimmy Hoffa and presumably Kate Blanchett at some point. And, you know, how am I supposed to live like this? Eating cubes.
Yeah. It sounds like a pretty bad time.
I can't go. I'm not brave enough. However, if I were asked to colonize another planet, if we were doing like, let's expand the human race to like, you know,
sure,
frontier planets, uninhabited planets that are like homesteading type situation, I'd do that in a second. If I could get my own planet where there's not a bunch of other assholes on it, I'd be like, fuck yeah.
You know what, Trey? And I'll just keep on going because I have a short segment for you. Mm-hmm. You know what trait I would like to give an alien culture?
Go on.
The gift of extreme embalming. I was talking
segue.
Like Egyptian mummy style.
I'm talking crazier. I was talking with Pingo Cheesebot on Twitter, and I realized that some of our content has been lost because the main podcast channels only keep 100 episodes. If you want all of them, go to werewolfradar.com.
Puke.
But werewolfradar.com's got them all.
We've just got so much content.
But some of you probably have never heard of Mickey Easterling and her bitch brooch.
The bitch brooch, baby.
Yeah.
It's back. Holy shit.
You're correct to give the aliens the gift of bitch brooch. Every culture should have one.
So this story originally happened in April 26th of 2014. It is from dailymail.com. But of course, there were countless local articles. The Advocate did one. The party's not quite over yet. Famed New Orleans social dame is the star guest at her own funeral extravaganza.
Incredible.
Which she planned.
Yeah, she did it. She did the thing that so many comedians make fucking hacky stand-up jokes about.
In a cocktail frock, smoking a cigarette and drinking champagne. That's how she was posed. Here it is.
How do you get a corpse to smoke a cigarette?
There she is.
You can do it, man.
Look at her. She's glamorous.
As alive as she was the day before she died.
Look at that. She smokes American spirits.
Incredible. The champagne. This is incredible. I don't think I've seen the picture. Can you scroll down?
No, because then you'll see things. Yeah, of course I'll scroll down. Look at that.
Is. She looks great.
That American spirit was lit.
Mickey.
There's her friends.
Ugh, legend. Yeah, amazing.
This is the way to do it.
For real.
Oh, yeah.
Mickey partied harder than I only made it to like 37 before I had to stop partying. Mickey is still going.
The article was written by Joel Christie.
Posthumous
party girl, Mickey Easterling.
And Joel Christie writes, the consummate hostess, she was never without a glass of champagne or a cigarette holder, and wore a flamboyant feather boa, bonnet, and a diamond-shaped studded brooch that said bitch.
Yes! Mickey!
Boom.
Unbelievable. I mean, that's how you live forever. That's how you live forever.
There it is. Look at that brooch.
Look at the bitch brooch. My God. Mickey. Crushing
Nice.
it.
Jason Cordova says those on Castbox see all 487 episodes.
Oh, dang. We're coming up on episode 500 pretty soon.
Listen, that would mean I'd have to count everything differently. And
Look.
we're at episode 231, maybe?
Okay. We're
all right.
We're using the Julian calendar
Yes.
like Krampus. This is guys, this is how I want to be for episode 500. I want to be propped up with a glass of champagne.
You want to be fully embalmed.
Fully embalmed with an American spirit in a fucking Hunter Thompson cigarette holder so she doesn't get the stink on her hands because she's from New Orleans and she understands class.
Mickey Easterling went on to throw many parties, but at this one, she also happened to be dead.
Mm-hmm.
In a lifting send-off only a few could manage, Easterling, a splashy New Orleans party diva who passed away at the age of 53 following a long illness, requested her body be propped up at her own funeral and feted one last time.
That illness, of course, was alcoholism, but we're not holding it against her.
Always the belle of the ball, even in death, the celebrated socialite and philanthropist was commemorated by more than 1,000 people at a kooky grand memorial service in the lobby of the Sanger Theater on Friday.
Amazing.
In 2014.
2014. Don't go there this Friday.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they have like, we're the place she was embalmed or she was partied at.
Yeah, we said we buried her, but she's upstairs.
She's upstairs. We bring her out for parties.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Bring a Ouija board and use a champagne flute as your planchette and try and summon the spirit of Mickey Easterling.
And as soon as it spells out the word bitch and the beat drops, you're fucking good to go.
But what we witnessed there with her bitch brooch and her propping and her fashion is extreme embalming.
Yeah. Yeah, indeed.
And
Mickey
if you go to our
bitch
Discord,
brooch Easterling.
If you go to our Discord, I have an article that is too long for a segment on today's episode, but it is about extreme embalming from the Paris Review.
Wow. Interesting.
Which features Misty Erling's story as well.
Oh, cool. The one that always interested me was the mellified man. Are you familiar with that?
I'm not.
Yes. That's the honey guy. Yeah.
Yeah. Like these.
It's a weird one.
I think it's like a Tibetan or like some kind of weird, obscure Buddhist practice where it's like for like a certain amount of days, you eat nothing but honey until like your sweat becomes sweet and you stop like urinating or anything.
Oh.
And then they just keep going and keep going. And then ultimately I think they like submerge them in honey and it like preserves them. It candies them.
Oh,
yeah.
What?
It's awful.
Yeah.
What? Why humans?
I mean, it goes back at least as far as Herodotus says that. So 4th century BCE.
Wow.
He recorded that the Assyrians embalmed their dead honey.
Okay.
And apparently Alexander the Great, and I think we talked about this when we did that segment. Alexander's sarcophagus was filled with honey preserve.
Interesting. Delicious. That's what Bigfoot's dipping in.
Some quotes from the funeral interviews.
Oh.
She's in a Leonardo outfit, says Sammy Steele, who did Mickey's hair and makeup. And I actually dressed her tonight
Sammy
for the
Steele.
occasion.
Hell yeah.
Another one from Steele. She's touched so many different people. She made a contribution to our city, to the arts, and the community. Mickey is known for throwing some of the most memorable New Orleans parties.
Mhm.
One specific one I remember was the one she gave for Lena Horne.
Oh.
Yeah.
It is something. It's like something out of a department store window in New York.
Kind
Steele
of.
says.
Well, what have you heard about New York?
This is what she requested. She's sitting in a garden scenery to depict her backyard. Oh. This is what she wanted. No stone was left unturned for this memorial. She looks wonderful. That. She just looks like Mickey.
What a way to go. So
Mickey is a graduate of Mount Caramel Academy. is how this article ends from WGNO ABC.
Mount Caramel School of Human Mellification. What would yours be? How would you be posed?
Boy, tempted for the Heisman, but I think
Did he like football? No, not really.
No,
never mentioned it once.
It's just a good pose, man.
It's pretty
Did
good.
he like the person? I don't know.
That is a dope ass pose. Boy, see, that makes me think. I don't even know what mine would be.
I think I would go frozen in carbonite.
Okay. Full Han Solo.
Yeah.
That's
but without the carbonite, obviously. Just pose like that.
Sure.
Super high. Jordan, I could see you with a super high sidekick. Maybe a nunchuck.
I do like the idea of weirdly being in like a karate gi and like a fighting stance. Like anybody want to take a shot at the king?
Now's your last chance before we put him in the fire.
Just goading people to fight a corpse.
There's a microphone put in your mouth, just taunting people.
Sure. Oh boy. Unfortunately, it probably would be like behind a microphone with like 20-sided dice instead of eyes or something. Boy. Wow.
Turned him into an avatar of tabletop gaming.
But that's my two segments: MUFON stats and the story of the bitch brooch.
Oh, that's it. I want a bitch brooch too.
And a bitch brooch.
Yeah. I thought it was assumed.
Yeah.
I have a request on Etsy. We're all getting bitch brooches. Don't worry.
Do not threaten me with a good time. What if that's what killed her?
Good times? I think it did.
No, the bitch brooch.
Oh.
Did they check to see if it went? How
might have been
pierced her heart with it? Wow. May I take the speaking skull?
Please.
By all means.
Thank you so much. Set that over here so it's not looking at me. I have, so first of all, had a big troll week. I watched Troll on Netflix, which led me to watching Troll Hunter.
Yep, great movie.
Which is my favorite troll-related movie.
I like it when they get the bait for the troll. I'm not going to spoil anything. That's a classic troll scene.
Troll Hunter is amazing if you haven't seen it. It is subtitled. I'd also recommend watching Troll on Netflix. It's a ridiculous.
Troll's not bad. It's insane.
It's totally insane. They treat it like a disaster movie. It's like a fucking what was it, 2016 or something? Or what was the movie about the world?
Oh, 2012?
2012, yeah. It's like a 2012 or like a Dante's Peak or like a Godzilla or something. But it's a troll. A troll punches its
And I'm not going to lie. Trolls World Tour. Phenomenal movie.
Those trolls are more talented than they're letting on. But in my search for troll sightings, which is a little peek into my late night phone scrollings. No, even realer, paranormal. And I still didn't find any. I found some people on Reddit who were like, I think I saw a troll in Massachusetts. And you're like, all right, well, this isn't what I'm looking for. But it did lead me to a very, very interesting UFO encounter. This is from Humanoid Encounters on Reddit, which I recommend following. As with anything on Reddit, you gotta, you take the good with the bad. So you'll get a lot of chaff, but every once in a while you get some good old succulent wheat. And this is just such one. This is titled The Potosi Sheepslayer, a strange little humanoid that killed Valentina Flores's sheep in Potosi, Bolivia, 1968.
What?
Whoa.
Yeah. So this is from the original poster, whose name is Emilios260, who says that most sources say this happened in 1968, but the most comprehensive one I found and included below with the drawing attached state that it happened in 1967. So there's a little confusion there, which, understandable. So this is apparently what happened to one Valentina Flores's sheep. In what has to be considered one of the most unsettling cases in the history of ufology, an unsuspecting Bolivian shepherdess was tending to her flocks of sheep and llama when she had, I like that there's a couple of llamas in there, just so when people see them, they'll be like, what's wrong with that sheep?
Oh, I stretched his
Really
neck.
Big neck.
We don't know. We call those long daddies.
Those are sheep's giraffes.
Okay. She was tending her flocks of sheep and llama when she had a terrifyingly violent encounter with an entity of unknown origin that would leave her literally scarred for life. Situated in the desolate mountainous regions of Bolivia's southwestern highlands, not far from the once thriving silver mining city of Potosi, is a rustic province known as Opoko. Not Otoko, as it is often erroneously transcribed. So Opoko. In 1967, 24-year-old Valentina Flores and her husband, Gumersindo, which is a name, were managing to eke out a living on a small parcel of land not far from Opoko. These illiterate Quechua Indians led a secluded life tending to their land, livestock, and their infant daughter, Theodosia. I don't know why they brought up the illiterate thing. At no point does she need to read. Neither Valentina nor Gumersindo how do you say that? Gumersindo? Is it a soft G? I've never seen that name.
Maybe.
Neither
Might
Valentina.
be a take on Homer.
Oh, okay. Neither Valentina nor Gumersindo were aware of or interested in tales of UFOs or their ostensibly extraterrestrial occupants that had grabbed headlines the world over. And absolutely nothing could have prepared Valentina for the horror she and her child would face on an evening just after Easter of that year. Late in the afternoon, on the day in question, Valentina led her flock of 64 sheep into a grazing field adjacent to a hilly expanse that housed a long-standing stone corral. It was then that she noticed, much to her dismay, that her herd of llamas had wandered off. See, it's like juggling cats. You're watching the sheep and the llamas are fucking off. Famed Spanish author and UFO investigator J.J. Benitez traveled to Bolivia in 2001 and managed to track down Valentina and her husband. He interviewed the then 59-year-old eyewitness, who was astonished by the fact that a foreigner would have ever heard of, much less care about, the terrifying encounter that she had 34 years before. Still clearly haunted by the event, Valentina described the scene to him. And this is all in caps, so I assume she was shouting.
Mm-hmm.
That day I was alone. That day I was alone. My husband was commissioned, and like the rest of the men, he was in the Pampas working. I'm not really sure what commissioned means, but I'm assuming some sort of government draft for either work or military.
It's probably just brought in as a work for hire for like day labor or whatever.
Yeah. It was around 4 p.m. when I went to look for the llamas and their young. What do you call a baby llama?
Yamito.
Okay, nice. Yamito. They had gone astray. Then I gathered the sheep and the lambs in one place and went searching for the animals. With Theodosia strapped firmly on her back in a traditional blanket wrapping known as a manta, Valentina began stalking her llamas, ultimately tracking them down to a meadow about 45 minutes away from the field where she left her sheep. The shepherdess collected her foraging animals and began herding them back toward the grazing field. The sun was beginning its slow descent toward the horizon by the time Valentina returned with the llamas in tow. This time she was shocked to discover that her sheep were nowhere to be found. Confused and more than a little annoyed, Valentina left her llamas behind and Yamitos, and she and the slumbering Theodosia followed the sheep's tracks into the hills. As she neared the stone corral, Valentina hesitated, noting that there was something peculiar covering the eerily silent structure. So imagine an old stone corral made out of probably river stones, cobblestones, not too high, but there's something over it, almost like a tent or something. What gave her pause was the sight of a sprawling, web-like substance that draped like a tent over the whole of the stone enclosure. The material resembled a network of plastic mesh that emerged from a pole-like structure in the center of the corral, and it seemed to attach itself to the rock walls, though some accounts state that it was held in place by means of a sharpened stick that were broken off nearby trees. Weird. Determined to find out what was going on with her livestock, the young mother pushed her fears aside and crept closer to the edifice. Valentina could barely stifle a gasp of horror when she saw that the ground beneath the webbing was littered with the disemboweled carcasses of her family's prized sheep.
Oh, my prized sheep.
Dang.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's, it's like finding out someone just cleaned your bank account out.
Yeah, for real. This is her entire life.
Were the sheep lured there and then slaughtered, or slaughtered and then lured there?
She left them in the field, and when she found them, they were in the corral.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Let me make sure that's what it was.
Because, I'm not saying that no creature that I can't imagine can't do unthinkable things.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it did lure all the sheep there and kill them, or maybe it did superhuman speed and strength and killed each one individually and brought each one individually to its home. But it's something I think about.
Yeah, she just.
It's also possible that one sheep got scared and the rest of the flock followed that sheep back to where it was.
Being herded to.
It does seem weird that, I don't know. I vote that they were herded there.
Yeah, sheep get herded easily. That's why dogs are so happy to do it.
In order to just be fucking killed under this weird web.
I mean, what I want to know is, did they spend most of the day walking in a circle for no reason?
It was then that a flicker of movement caught Valentina's eye, and she spied the childlike entity that had been responsible for eviscerating 63 of her sheep.
Just a child skipping with a knife.
Attempting to do the same with her final struggling lamb by way of an elongated tubular device with a razor-sharp hook at one end that seemed to be attached to him by means of a chain.
Weird.
Yeah, let me describe that one more time. So he's kneeling over this lamb, trying to do what he's done to these other lambs using an elongated tubular device with a razor-sharp hook at one end attached to him by a chain. I'm almost imagining what Sly Cooper has?
Yeah.
One of those, but with like a sucky thing in the middle for sucking guts out.
Very bizarre. It sounds more demonic than alien.
It's very weird.
Yeah. The chain.
I mean, it also sounds like a Lobo weapon to me.
Yeah, but the
giant.
The webbing kind of over the thing, the plastic webbing, that sounds like some kind of weird technology, like some kind of auto tent or something. Who knows? Anyway, next to the being was an open plastic bag full of sheep entrails and organs. The understandably upset Valentina, or is it Valentia? I might have been saying it wrong the whole time. Let's see what he says at the top.
I bet it's
Valentina. It's Valentina. So he's standing next to this bag of sheep entrails and organs, apparently the good shit. The understandably upset Valentina described the unbelievable sight before her. There was a small man inside the corral. He was like a child on his knees and with a sheep between his legs. The pen was covered with something like a net. I panicked. The individual had killed all my animals. Valentina would describe the mini mutilator as being young and chubby, He stood just over 3 feet tall and was wearing, quote, strange clothing like a diver, one piece from the neck to the feet. The boots were brown. The shepherdess further described red crisscrossing straps across the humanoid's chest in the shape of an X, which supported a large mechanical-looking rucksack on his back. The creature also had 2 utility-like satchels attached to his sides. Valentina noted the being's odd blocky helmet, which had a propeller crowning it. My man, going full fucking, going full peanuts with it, huh?
Tweedledee.
Yeah, real Tweedledee situation. Although many reports describe the notorious Potosi Sheepslayer as wearing a rounded, quote, smoky, propeller-free helmet that covered its face, Valentina actually got a good look at his exposed features, which she described thusly. He had very white skin with blonde hair, blue eyes, and a red and abundant mustache.
He was a mustachioed man.
What?
Something's very disturbing about thinking about mustaches on aliens.
Right?
Was it to blend in, or is it something he's always had?
I think it's just to get laid, man.
Yeah.
I mean, look like he doesn't need
to. He's not trying to blend in if he's wearing the crazy propeller helmet and
he's got his
I meant with his own culture. Do others have that same mustache, or is this something he's always had?
You think he comes from like the planet Selleck?
He's one of the Sellecons.
Yes, I do now.
Okay, so this is where it gets fucking dope. Enraged by the mass carnage caused by this diminutive butcher, Valentina did what anyone might do in her place. She began spewing forth a string of profanities and pelting this bizarre sheep rustler with rocks.
Nice.
At this point, the miniature Mengele, abruptly stood up, releasing the last sheep.
We raised him back from the dead and made him cute.
At this point, the minister Mengele abruptly stood up, releasing the last sheep, and turned around to face his earthly assailant with an expression of shock and fear in his mustache. He leapt over to a it doesn't actually say that, but the mustache, the mustache is the window of the face. He leapt over to a strange device, which Valentina, with her limited knowledge of technology, later compared to a radio, cranked a wheel-shaped lever at its apex, whereupon the elastic webbing that covered the corral rapidly retracted into the mechanism. Once the tent-like covering was gone, Valentina noticed another virtually identical entity standing on the opposite side of the corral. At being seen, this second being sprinted up a nearby hill, sat down on a chair-like contraption, and a set of blades and a rotor-like mechanism came out of a pair of cylindrical attachments behind his chair, and this creature promptly took off, leaving his cohort to fend for himself. Which is the funniest bail. Oh, fuck! She's back! She's it! It was then that Valentina decided it was time to get down to business. She removed her wooden, iron-tipped cudgel from her sack and entered the blood-slathered corral like a gladiator entering the arena.
It's just me and you now, little man.
You little mustache freak. She glanced down at the mass carnage that represented the better part of her family's livelihood and angrily approached the creature responsible for the devastation. Evidently anxious, the little man tried speaking to the furious shepherdess in a language she could not comprehend. She remembered her state of mind in that fiery moment. Quote, "He spoke to me, but I did not understand it. It was not Quechua or Spanish. He was upset. He was as upset as I was. Oh my God, my animals. He had killed them one by one. I became crazy." Valentina lunged at the entity with the club, striking him with an agonizing blow. I hit him with all my strength in the face. See, he started to bleed. The guy was still screaming, but I did not understand him. This is so wild. It was at that moment the Sheepslayer decided to defend himself, wielding the same cylindrical hook-ended surgical implement he'd used to gut the sheep. He flung the armament at Valentina, slicing into her chest and arms. The mother would later admit, with an almost certain sense of relief, that it was only the large knot of the manta that supported Theodosia that prevented the blade from embedding into her chest and delivering a killing blow. Crazy. It's so specific. It's worth noting that while most reports of this battle state that the hooked disemboweler was used as a boomerang-like weapon, Valentina insisted that it was the chain it was attached to that automatically retracted the razor-sharp tool back into the entity's hand after every throw. So he's got like a scorpion situation going on.
Get over here, organs.
Seriously. Undeterred, Valentina struck again, connecting with the entity's right forearm. The entity screamed in anguish as blood streamed down his now dangling and immobile wrist.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's what happens when you slay somebody's sheep.
Yeah. This demoralizing blow proved to be too much for the Sheepslayer, and it used its still functioning left arm to grab the radio-like contraption and literally head for the hills. Once there, he flew off in the same manner as his comrade, never to be seen again.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Nuts.
Yeah, we got a little fallout from it. Soon after, detachment of the Bolivian army was dispatched to the scene, where they collected all 63 carcasses, as well as samples of the creature's blood that had been spilled by Valentina's cudgel. It was determined that the sheep were missing multiple internal and external organs, including their eyes, ears, portions of the mouth, as well as belly fat. Authorities also found that most, if not all, of the blood that ought to have been inside the animals was missing. So maybe that's what the pole thing does. It sucks the blood out.
If it's stationary, it just sits there sucking, you slice and it sucks.
And it puts it into his giant backpack.
Like a Flowbee for blood.
Flores family, exactly.
Yeah, Monstroco brand Flowbee.
Yeah.
Blood will flow.
Flowbee positive. The Flores family was forced to leave the region, first emigrating to the Aurora mines and finally south. Other ranches in the area, when questioned by the Bolivian government, claimed to have witnessed other strange events. Some testified that they had seen strange individuals leaping out of their sheep pens and leaving behind exsanguinated carcasses. Valentina herself claimed that just days before the encounter, an unseen individual had thrown a bowl of blood into her face.
Jesus. So they mark her as
what?
When you come down, this is the person you're gonna go after?
I guess so.
Maybe as a prank?
Oh, that's the lady who has them good sheep with the dope blood. Weird. I don't know. That seems like maybe unrelated. I think maybe a human did that.
To what end? A village. Inter-village problem.
Yeah, maybe this feels like magic or something. But there is kind of a weird vibe of like you said, Roger, like the demonic to this. I don't know. It's unlike any UFO encounter I've ever heard. But at the same time, it has all these shades
like
that
alien
exactly
things.
Yeah. When Benitez interviewed Valentina in 2001, something became immediately clear to the investigator. It was the fact that 3 decades after her terrifying encounter, Valentina still did not know what a UFO, much less an extraterrestrial, was. When they attempted to explain to her, she dismissed their efforts. It was not something that concerned her in the least. But what did concern Valentina and continued to haunt her dreams was the vicious little red mustachioed man who flew off into the sky with a bag full of organs, leaving her a bloody mess and her family in a state of utter financial ruin.
Yeah, that's for sure weird.
That is the tale of the Sheepslayer. I'm going to drop the Reddit thread in our listen along because Valentina drew some pictures of what she saw. And he looks like a little fucking mustache weirdo who wants your blood. Very strange encounter. That does it for my segment that I'm calling Mountainous Mustache Madness.
Good title.
Mountainous Mustache Mutton Madness.
Even better title.
Yeah, there we go.
Crushed it. Nate, I toss you the speaking skull. And let's get some reactions. This is a weird one. What do you do? What's the paranormal preparedness for this one? Smart guys.
Have a fucking metal tipped cudgel all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
Stay on.
I mean,
baby.
yeah, Valentina has she's shown us the course here.
Also, bulletproof vest or something. You need something to cover your core.
Yeah, for real. I think that's all you can do.
Poison sheep. Sure, they get the sheep's organs.
Joke's on them. These sheep have been refilled with Monstroco brand poison blood.
Enjoy all that poison, boys.
Monstroco brand cyanide giblets. Put them in your sheep.
See, this is the problem. This is like in our video about Chupacabra that will come out at some point. Is at some point if you make your sheep into poisonous monsters, you've just created a bigger problem for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
you have a new monster.
Yeah, when you try to make a goat that can withstand the goat sucker, you've just made another Chupacabra.
Right.
Real chicken egg situation. No, an old lady who swallowed a fly situation.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Anyway, I'm now terrified of the Sheepslayer. He's the scariest one. He feels like, I don't know.
Super weird.
But
Yeah.
we just heard how
scary
they
that
can.
he's using weapons.
We just heard that they can be defeated, though.
They can. Yeah, they're not, they're not invincible. They're not.
Right. If it bleeds, we can kill it.
Yeah, they got fucking fragile ass wrists.
Especially
Come
if you
on,
got a metal cudgel.
Yeah, let's party. You little Oompa Loompa fuck.
Lead pipes for everyone.
Very pale skin and a bright red mustache. Keep your eyes peeled, Pingos. With Monstroco, eye peeler.
All right, Knight. Send us away.
Right. Yes, I shall. Kiss the forehead of the speaking skull lightly and gently set it down on a doily. And we're going back to the last thing I'll pull from Nick Redfern's Paranormal Parasites. If you are not a member of the Dark Council, that's been two weeks of grave nuggets, chock full of great information. This will be the cherry on the top. Segment I'm going to call Chupacolta. Most of this is just straight from the book. The first part is not. Scenario: Nick Redford and Jonathan Downs were in Puerto Rico in 2004 working on Sci-Fi's proof positive show, Mission Chupacabra. In his own words, quote, "For a week or so, John and I roamed around the island, tracking down witnesses and securing intriguing stories, all on the Chupacabra. Yes, we obtained more than a few reports of the attacks of the mysterious animals, but we uncovered something else too. There were fears and suspicions on the part of the locals that the attacks were the work of monsters that dwelled in other, almost magical dimensional realms and only entered our reality when they needed to feed or when we invoked them."
Whoa.
That was not all. According to several of the people John and I spoke to, which included vets, ranchers, and police officers, there were suspicions that the Chupacabras had been supernaturally summoned. In this scenario, the creatures had been given access to our world by a powerful secret society on the island, one which performed magical rites and rituals to achieve their goals of power and influence.
See,
This
is why you don't summon.
Exactly. In that secret society, blood was not just part of their rituals. It was seen as something that would appease the bloodlust of the Chupacabra. And here's where things get really controversial. The animals most often attacked and killed by the Chupacabra are goats, chickens, and pigs. There are, however, more than a few rumors of attacks on people. Attacks that Puerto Rican authorities were determined to keep hidden firmly under wraps, which is perhaps understandable. They were said to be attacks that always ended in a violent death for the person in question. If true, it's certainly no surprise that officials would do its very best to bury such events for fear of mass hysteria breaking out. One of the most macabre stories told to us on the 04 trek around Puerto Rico with the Sci-Fi Channel came from a woman who lived in Ponce, maybe, and whose story is Ponce, yeah, probably, and whose story is one of the most controversial on record. Julia, as all call her, claimed to know a great deal about the secret society that was at the heart of this controversy. There was a very good reason why Julia was so well informed. Her ex-husband was a member of the group.
Oh,
there it is. I know
He was
who the
also-
killer is because I'm him.
He was also a powerful figure on the island, specifically in the real estate business. He'd been invited into the group in 1999, which was around a year before he and Julia married. In fact, it was his connections to the group that led to their divorce less than a year after they got married.
nice. It just kept him away from the house too much.
Mhm,
They
mhm.
couldn't bond.
As it will, and he started drinking again. Blood.
Yep.
I mean,
Yep.
He
when
promised.
Julia-
He promised he wouldn't.
promised he wouldn't. And now our kids are empty.
When Julia's husband finally confided in her the details of his secret life, Julia was outraged. Not just because he'd kept his other life from her, but also because of what exactly he was involved in. Julia's husband told her that it was due to certain supernatural pacts between the group and the paranormal denizens of realms beyond ours
Good
that he
Lord.
now had so much prestige, power, and money. There was, however, a price to pay, as there always is when one makes a deal with malignant supernatural things from other
Yeah.
dimensional planes.
Yeah, you dingus. This was in like the first Elder Scrolls. This is like Morrowind shit.
That price revolved around nothing less than human blood.
Mm.
Julia sat and listened, both horrified and terrified by what she was hearing, as her husband outlined what was going on. It was no coincidence, he said, that his life had massively altered for the better in 1999. It was all down to that invitation and his willingness to do whatever needed to be done to ensure wealth and influence. Julia's husband had been present at a particular ritual that was held at the spacious home of a Puerto Rican drug baron who also put his success down to that same secret society.
Nice.
The story got this, yeah.
Crazy.
The story got even more controversial. Julia admitted that she couldn't prove any of what she was telling us back in 2004, but she claimed to have been told of 3 people on the island who had been paid, and paid very well, to provide the group with supplies of their very own blood and to discuss it with no one.
Dun dun dun.
I'll sell my blood.
I mean, it doesn't sound too bad for these people.
I'll sell my blood, especially if it's going to be given to the Chupacabra.
Do you think it can be anyone's blood, or does it have to be these 3 special people?
I see.
I think it can be anybody, although they do have. I think it maybe has to be 2 women and 1 man. I don't know. It's not specific, but that is the gender makeup of the 3 people.
Can the one man be named Juan so he can be the chosen Juan?
No.
Chosen Juan, yeah.
Boy, I've been working on that
Or-
for
or-
months, guys. Thank you so much, everybody. Woo!
So the tale went that the people were taken to the location of the meeting, which was high in the hills of the El Yunque rainforest, and the blood was taken by a local doctor who was also well paid for his actions and his silence.
Wow. You gotta be a corrupt fucking doctor to be on the take for witches.
The 3, like I said, 2 and 1 man, 1 man.
No shade
were
on
one
witches,
by
the
one.
way. I know these aren't typical. This isn't typical.
No, these are this
Craft.
is less witchcrafty and more
Right.
evil.
Yeah, warlock.
sorcery.
This is warlock shit.
Necromancy of the classical
Sure.
sense.
Sure, Chupacabra-mancy.
This isn't
Yeah.
green magic here.
Yeah. This
Yeah.
blood magic.
The 3 were one by one placed on a large ornate altar, at which point the blood was removed. Then, with the doctor and the 3 donors driven back to their respective homes after being warned to never ever discuss what had happened with anyone.
Again. No, seriously.
The blood was used in a complex ritual to conjure up and manifest a chupacabra.
Weird. It makes a weird amount of sense, though.
Yeah, I mean,
Blood drinking
does.
beast from hell.
And he's talking about joining in 1999, which is, 4 years after the first Chupacabra sighting. And this drug baron had been doing it already for a little while. So the timeline makes sense.
I guess my question is, but why?
Well, because appeasing these things allows them to exert force on the immortal plane that allows them to be more successful, I guess, in the fields they've chosen.
Yeah, it's
no. I'm sorry. I meant why. I'm thinking of this as it was their ultimate goal to summon the Chupacabra.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I mean,
but why? It doesn't seem like it's the most terrifying of monsters. Like if I'm going to sacrifice 3 people, I want my monster to have a little bit more.
Well, it seems
some more
that
chutzpah.
It seems that by giving the Chupacabra blood, they are honoring some sort of pact that will give them fame and fortune.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the same thing as summoning a demon or a djinn for that matter, you know?
Yeah.
Julia claims
we should probably re-record that What is Chupacabra, because we got this to add.
Julia claimed that her husband assured her that the ritual worked all too well. The group of several dozen, so it's a pretty big cult, all dressed in cloaks no less, focused their minds on having the Chupacabra appear before them, which is exactly what is said to have happened. It was a hellish situation. The lights in the building flickered, and the room was filled with a nauseating odor of sulfur. In seconds, the air shimmered like a heat haze on the road on a hot summer's day, and the creature slowly came into being, hunched over and staring at the group malevolently. Even long-term members of the group were shocked to their collective core by what they were seeing. It was exactly what the group was counting on, but actually seeing the monster up close and personal was something else entirely.
I bet.
Yo necesito cabra.
One and all were quietly told to remain as calm as possible, despite the fraught and fantastic nature of the events. There was one thing that none of the members of the group could avoid seeing. The Chupacabra was semi-transparent. It was far more spectral than it was physical. That is, until the monster placed its clawed paws into a large bowl in which substantial amounts of blood had been poured. Within seconds of the creature doing so, its transparency was no more, and it was suddenly a completely physical entity. Julia's husband was unable to explain the process, mainly because no one seemed to understand the full scope of what it was they were dealing with. He did, however, state that the magical nature of human blood, when ingested in large amounts, not only fed the Chupacabra, but also gave it physical substance in our world, in marked difference to the ethereal form it had in its own realm. When the creature was apparently sated and fed, it vanished in a bright blue flash that affected the eyes of one and all present for several minutes.
Wow.
Julia listened further as she was told that several other such rituals had taken place in the 90s, the first of which had allegedly led to the beginning of the Chupacabra phenomenon in 1995. Julia said, yep.
The second of which summoned Steve Buscemi. I'm kidding. Buscemi seems like a really nice guy.
Julia sat back, appalled and frightened by what she'd heard, not knowing whether to believe it or not. It was, however, the undeniable fear in her husband's eyes that finally convinced her he was telling the truth, a truth that revolved around how the Chupacabra needs to feast on our blood to maintain a foothold in our world. No wonder Julia chose to leave her marriage behind. Then there's a second shorter story.
Of all the reasons you could leave someone, like I don't imagine
summoning a monster from another dimension with blood magic.
Any court is going to deny a divorce based on the grounds of blood magic. Yeah, my husband it turns out he's doing a lot of evil sorcery.
Also, I love the fact that no one has ever talked about Chupacabra's catchphrase, "I need to suck."
Yo necesito chupar.
Yo necesito que chupar.
Chupar. It would be chupar. Oh boy, that's a t-shirt. Chupacabra with shades on.
Check our Teespring. Go to the merch link.
Fuck yeah.
It's not a sex thing. It's a Chupacabra thing.
It's a blood thing.
It's not a sex thing, but it's okay if it turns you on.
On my third expedition to Puerto Rico, just a few years later, I heard a somewhat similar story. Yes, there were differences, but the basic plot, the connection between the Chupacabra and human blood, was the same. The source was a rancher who had a controversial story to tell, one that involved none other than the FBI, which has an office in the city of San Juan, the capital of Puerto Rico. This was actually not the first time I had heard of an FBI connection to Chupacabra. In September 2005, which was when I traveled to Puerto Rico for the second time with a team from Canada's Red Star Films, our guide was a local man named Orlando Pla. He told me that a couple of years earlier, the local FBI office had opened a file on the Chupacabra. It was not a file on the beast itself, though. Rather, as Pla told me, the FBI was investigating the theory that the attacks on farm animals were not the work of the Chupacabra, but of occultists who were using the Chupacabra phenomenon as a cover for their own clandestine activities of the sacrificial variety.
Good Lord. It makes more sense than almost anything I've heard about the Chupacabra, which is an insane thing to say based on what you just told.
Yes, it is.
But I agree with you as well, Jordan.
Man.
In some respects, this sounds very much like the same group that Julia told John Downs and I about back in 2004. Jorge was the rancher who revealed what he knew of all of this. He was someone who I first met with back in 2004, but who didn't want to speak out in front of the cameras and have his identity blown wide open. And who could blame him for that? Jorge was, however, fine about his first name and his hometown being used, but that was all. Clearly, he had concerns about his safety, which I could tell was the case. Those concerns were more than understandable. Jorge, like Julia, had heard of a secret cult, as he worded it, which had strands and tentacles all across the island, specifically in the domain of big business, which also echoes the words of Julia. Jorge's animals had been attacked by what was assumed to have been a Chupacabra, and he wasted no time in calling the police. Oddly, though, it was a pair of agents from the FBI rather than Puerto Rico's local authorities who responded and turned up to investigate. Jorge, confused by the fact that the FBI would be interested in the killing of 5 of his farm animals, asked what was going on. He was quietly told that there were suspicions, which mirrored the story told to me in 2005 by Orlando Pla, that the attacks may have been the work of cultists. The pair had a look around Jorge's property, took a few photos, thanked him, and then went on their way. This was not the end of the matter, though. Several days later, an elderly man dressed in an expensive suit arrived at Jorge's home and practically invited himself in. Such was his insistence that he talk with Jorge. It turned out that somehow the group that the FBI suspected was using the Chupacabra issue as a cover had learned about the visit by 2 bureau agents to Jorge's home. The old man, who Jorge said looked pale and sickly, warned Jorge of the perils of even thinking about speaking with the FBI again. Although, for someone who seemingly wanted to keep everything under wraps, the old man was oddly talkative, informing Jorge that human blood was at the heart of the Chupacabra manifestations.
Wow.
It's giving away all the secrets. And that, as Jorge worded it, blood sacrifice was integral to the success of, quote, the program. It must be noted that Jorge's use of the word sacrifice was a very controversial one, since it suggested that perhaps some of the people used in these rituals did not just offer a safe amount of their blood, but lost their very lives in the name of the Chupacabra. Try as I might, Jorge would not expand on this matter, and I did not learn anything else that might have suggested a line had been crossed to a terrible, unforgivable degree. Yes, Jorge was told, the Chupacabra was all too real, but the deadly beast could not exist in our world without human blood. The Chupacabra did not live on human blood as a vampire bat might. Rather, it needed blood energy. Wow. With that all said, the old withered man left and was driven away in a large black car.
What? A large black car that he got from making a deal with the Chupacabra.
Yep.
What a weird encounter that would make me never sleep again.
Yeah, that's fucking crazy.
And it goes on for one more sentence. Jorge had one more attack on his property 4 months later that he chose not to report to anyone except for me, Nick Redfern, when we finally caught up again.
Wow.
Are you gonna share the experience, Redfern, or are you gonna keep me waiting?
I mean,
tease.
I think it was just the same thing, you know. Oh yeah, a bunch of animals exsanguinated in my front yard. It sucked.
It's still the Chupacabra that did it. Wow, crazy. That's amazing. I've heard about, and we actually did include it in the video, Raj, about the kind of paranormal, potentially sorceress origins of Chupacabra. But I always, I guess, assumed that it would be like you summon the Chupacabra to get revenge on, someone you hate. You send it after them, or goats, right. a goat that owes you $50, and you send the Chupacabra after it to extract that tax, that ass tax.
Yeah.
But I never thought that it would just be like
rather than being cult, like the middleman for a
thing.
Yeah.
Crazy. We mentioned Hellblazer recently. That feels like a Hellblazer plot line. John Constantine like tricking a demon with fake blood or something. Crazy.
Oh, Constantine.
Also,
this is corn syrup and dye.
Also, blood energy. That's what we should be fueling America with.
We have tons of it.
Oh, it's true.
Not as much as like China or India, but we're up there, baby.
Yeah, but come on, we turn this thing into a Draculocracy. Draculocracy?
Dracocracy?
I'm going with Draculocracy. A huge fucking glowing blood pylon in the middle of Austin.
Dude, maybe.
I'm going to start tweeting at Ye about the hemoglobalists.
There it is.
Chupacabra plot.
Yeah, maybe we can nudge him in a more acceptable crazy direction.
What you know about vampires?
The hemoglobalist cabals and their shiny chests and battles with teenage werewolves.
Exactly. Folks, thank you so much for listening to another episode of Werewolf Radar. What an app. Jeez. Good stuff.
A lot of stuff in this one, man.
Please tell your friends about the podcast. We'd like to have more listeners. Another great way to get us more listeners is by giving us 5 stars on iTunes or Spotify or any of that shit. You can retweet us when we tweet. You can follow us on Twitter, even though it's crumbling around us. It's almost fun though. It's fun to see the ways in which it's crumbling.
I saw earlier that Elon Musk is basically the IT department. The customer service department of Twitter right now. He fired so many people.
I imagine
I saw that the people who run Stormfront are back.
Oh, God. Yeah. Whatever. We're not going to talk about the fucking train wreck that is Twitter right now.
That's not our show.
I imagine a lot of him just crying and then somebody walking in and him pretending he's not crying. Elon, are you crying? No. I'm inventing. That's my
Janet
Elon
says,
impression.
Once you get enough listeners, you can use our collective blood energy to make dark pacts with the Chupacabra.
Yeah, and then
we will.
And we will buy Twitter with blood magic.
With each sacrifice, do they have to die?
No, it doesn't sound like those.
That's what I thought. Yeah. So it sounds like they just
cool. He only thought that because the way that Jorge said sacrifice, it sounded like maybe sometimes there was a little too much taken.
Gotcha.
Out.
You're just passed out for a moment while your hemoglobin while your spleen works.
He implied that some people died.
Oh,
that was not the goal.
A lot of tourists go missing,
Well, let's wish each other a good fortune with a dark pact with the Chupacabra.
Or maybe we just start sending the worst we have into the jaws of the Chupacabra, and then we get all the benefits, and then bing, bang, boom, there's no more fucking Nick Fuentes or whatever.
I like it.
And we have another story on the bunker. All right. For real this time, if you really enjoyed our stuff, please go over to patreon.com/werewolf radar. See if you'd like to become a member of the Dark Council. You can join us on our super secret weekly recordings of the Grave Nugget, which is another secret podcast that you will receive every week for being a Dark Council member. You'll get to join us in the Zoom room. You can come and kick it. You'll get art. You'll get merch. You'll get fiction. We got fingers in all kinds of soup pots over here. So join us over on Patreon. Go to werewolfradar.com. Check out some of the articles. And until next time, as always, on the count of 3, 1, 2, 3, punch
the sky, Spaceman Joe.
Spaceman Joe.